Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Wrapping up day one of the Home Entertainment Show 2023. This time it's in Costa Mesa for the first time. And as I mentioned, problems early on. I got here Wednesday night, problems with the hotel. Just to give you guys an update. Evidently, I'm not the only one. There's been other reports of things not being run as smoothly at the hotel level. And then also, it's a smaller show and being a little more disorganized in terms of, boy, there was a line today, which was a good sign, but almost too long a line for people to have to wait that long getting people coordinated. And this show's I've always had a love-hate relationship, and never really to the hate level, although I'm going to tell you a little bit of history of this show because it dates way back to when I used to go to CES in the 90s to early 2000s in Vegas. It used to be the sister show to CES. And so it was always pretty big show, the sister show, really good brands, gave you a lot of chance to interact. And that was some of my formative years of really excelling my system, being able to spend time in those rooms, hear the best of the best equipment, learn all the things that if you listen to me go into rooms now, it's not like overnight I know all this stuff that I know now. It just osmosis, picking this stuff up. I never was press. I never did videos back then, but I just was like a fly on the wall absorbing stuff. And so now it kind of pays off with all that wisdom you acquire over the years. So the show has always been instrumental and enjoyed it. And it's been in Irvine. It's had relationships with the LA Audio Society, then the head guy in charge passed away, unfortunately. And then there was some 2017 or 18, a real bad thing happened. This one girl was in charge, and then last minute decided to just say, oh, I went through a divorce, I couldn't handle things anymore, and canceled the show. I had booked tickets. Fremer was really pissed. He was supposed to do a presentation there. He even made an article about this girl in Stereophile at the time, just being, flaky. And I think, I was told today, she never even gave people their money back from that show. But thankfully, people took it over. And even this year, they've had some challenges, not getting into all the details, but giving them a pass on that aspect of it, because it's not easy to put on these shows. There's been a lot of challenges and drama over the years. The fact that they're still going strong, and they were one of the first shows. If you look, the first show after COVID I went to, one of the few press people there was June a few years ago, and they were doing it even before Rocky Mountain failed. They were able to put on a show. So kudos to them. There are a little bit of complaints about certain things, but you have to know the entire history of the show and judge them on balance. And a lot of things happened this year that, I can't give them A+ in terms of press. They didn't even have press passes from me. I had emailed 3 times, never got a response. I understand they lost the email for that password, or something happened where they weren't getting emails. All of the Absolute Sound didn't get their press passes, so I felt a little better. Actually, today I had dinner with other members of the press and Val from Acora. A lot of fun times. Watch those videos, or maybe I just did a YouTube short. And again, today I did just a few rooms. I want to do this one a little bit slower paced. It's not one of the big shows like Expona or Munich where I have to rush and do a whole lot of stuff to give you a flavor. I wanted to spend more time with each room and take my own pace, kind of like I did with Dallas. I kind of got accustomed to this slower pace, spend my time in there, and so tomorrow I'll upload more. I haven't even gone to a whole lot of rooms, but whatever I've uploaded today has all been high quality rooms, starting off with that Evolution acoustics, that new speaker that he told me, you're one of the few people, because I was there first thing in the morning started. You're one of the first people that have ever heard this speaker. This is their debut of it. 2 bass towers with the center console with the mid-range tweeter and some bass module. That's probably one of the most drivers in a speaker ever, if you count the number of drivers, even more than my NX Streams. So that was pretty impressive for just coming out, just setting up that first day. I was going to have an interview with Hervé, the head of Dart Seal, but he was still setting up. I didn't want to bother him. So hopefully this weekend I'll circle back with him and get a more detailed synopsis of what they're doing in that room and spend more time. I'd like to give them time to set up. But a lot of potential there, and a lot of fans of Dart Seal, even in my membership group. So want to show you guys a little bit more behind the scenes. Also, speaking of membership group, fans of Linkwitz, I have Michael, who I visited his home yesterday. I'm going to have a full video on that. I uploaded some shorts, but I'll do a full video that it's deserving of when I get back. Really cool system of Linkwitz in his home. But we heard the Linkwitz today in the show conditions with pass gear. It normally comes with the Class D amplification, but showing you can use the pass gear. It sounded phenomenal, and really one of the most impressive of all the ones I went to today, from my taste. Really amazing sound, disappeared, organic, very neutral, but warm enough that you could just listen for hours. And the new sock that they put on the bass, open baffle bass, looked really good. It hides all the wires behind it. This wasn't the Panzerholz model, but sounded phenomenal, looked great. Kudos to them as usual. Some other rooms that I saw today stood out, almost all of them. The MC Audio Tech with Steve McCormick's custom preamp. That's my first time seeing that custom one he does for Hi-Fi One in the latest iteration. Really cool. My friend Doug has had a custom preamp done by him. And let me tell you, for a budget point that is in what more than you would think people could afford, you're getting what in a retail establishment with distributor markup and dealer markup would be $50,000 or more pieces. You can get him to custom make it. It's so much fun to go through the process and pick out what fits your budget. And working with a guy, a legend like Steve McCormick, I already have one friend that's looking to do a project with him on top of Doug and all the other ones that have done it in the past. So something to look out for. Also, you saw David Burning's newest amps that are just, if you watch that video, go back and watch with Rick Brown. I think it's titled You Never See This Gear. Rick Brown, Hi-Fi One, distributor, home dealer, amazing system in his own home that I've filmed. He also got me in with Jim, who has that $1 million acapella Spheron system that uses burning amps. This was impressive. And the MC Audio Tech, the newer speaker, much better to my taste than his other speaker, which was more of a panel open baffle. You would think it's my type, but that one just didn't resonate with me for whatever reason from MC Audio Tech. But this one, much more coherent, just sounded good. Just very balanced overall. Very nice presentation. That's a cool room to get to know the electronics and the speaker, because they're all kind of under the radar brands, SMC Audio, David Burning, and this MC Audio Tech. But for a lot of people in the know, and you look at especially the parts quality and cost, the Ypsilon pure silver transformers on those burnings and every little piece inside, it looks very simple. It's not, and that is as high end as it gets. Price tag as well, but definitely worthy of it. Now, another room, Coras now regularly. Whatever room you put them in, they sound good. And even this one, he's got them wide apart, off axis. So isn't even my taste for normal near field on axis, because sometimes you lose that center imaging. Sometimes you lose that pinpoint imaging if they're not at least on axis somewhat. But it was creating a center imaging well, and also gave you a little more enveloping sound, because indirectly it's eliminating crosstalk, which, if you know about the Bach, that's what collapses sound stages and makes things a little less defined, because your right ear is hearing the left speaker and vice versa. So kind of, if you've got a big enough room and you want to somewhat mitigate crosstalk, what they've done in there really works. You spread them out, point them there. Mostly your right ear is only getting your right from the right speaker and left from the left speaker. By the way, I haven't even talked about these cool glasses. Did you see all my new necklace? I should have talked about this already. What do you think about this? Also, I got this from Lariga Leather. They don't have much of a presence online, but this leather worker is phenomenal. He told me that he's only done this piece for one other person, and it's Carlos Santana, who wanted the white leather behind it. He says this is the only one in existence. So pretty cool. I finally got a piece. I've always wanted one from Lariga Leather on Melrose, and now I do. Anyway, getting back to rooms. Okay, Cora was good, and then right behind that was probably one of the biggest surprises of the day was the Lanshay speakers, but not in the United Home Audio with the reference one. Just came back from late night there. That's phenomenal. Always good. Always, there's nothing surprising about that. With the United Home Audio deck, you're talking about best of the best. Oz, it's like you blanketly put them best of the best of shows all the time, and tonight was no exception. But the smaller Lanshay room with the Cake Audio and the Vitas, the only thing I can ding him on, he had the beautiful black and white Lanshay speakers, which I loved. He didn't have the black and white Vitas from Munich. That would have been a perfect match. But in terms of sound quality, one of the biggest takeaways today is, as I've told you many times, when I listen to point source box speakers, especially ones that are fairly, midway down to the room and low tweeter heights, is that when I sit in front of them and listen, I tend to only hear 2/3 at best of the room and down the presentation, which kind of corrupts my feeling that I'm listening to real music or anything live, because it just tells me I'm listening to speakers when the soundstage is constrained in that vertical manner. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes I'll sacrifice other things to go with line sources, and in the past have preferred Maggie's at a budget level, because they have trade-offs in this area, but that floor to ceiling immersive experience that gives me a little less feeling I'm listening to speakers, and some of the coloration that come with it, box speakers, it doesn't do that. But what the Lanshay was really amazing today, and I kept on it almost felt like I was listening to a line source, a floor-to-ceiling line source, because it was imaging with St. James Infirmary, and Fever, 2 tracks that I know really well. That's why I told you watch that all the way through, because we didn't get to St. James Infirmary to the very end, but that's a great reference track, especially if you're playing it on vinyl. Same thing with Fever by Elvis. So both of those were really good tests for me, I'm familiar with, and it was imaging much higher and filling the entire floor to ceiling plane than most point source box speakers I hear that are that size. So I was very impressed overall with that room, and was one of my standouts for sure. Now, the other cool standout today, a video I think you definitely should watch, well, really 2 of them for sure. The AV room service with Norman Varney goes into a lot of detail on why you should choose decoupling versus spikes and coupling. Not that 100% of the time you can't have good success with spikes, but he gives a very convincing presentation of why spikes are a little more dependent and variable, and really you can't hang your hat on anything for sure because there's so many variables compared to decoupling. And he does it with a little music player, showing the difference on different and a music player using vibrations to exactly show you and let you hear the difference. And in my experience with a lot of vibration control products, that's been my experience as well. So I hope to try the AV room service EVPs in the future, probably the pads that go under the subs, because again, if you've got problems with rattles in your room, just from that standpoint of noise, forget about the improvement of the quality of the speaker performance. Just sending things into your room's rattling, or singing along, your floors could be singing along. Just getting rid of that, it's worth looking into. And again, decoupling with quality things like Townsend platforms and these EVPs, I would highly recommend that over any type of spike. Not that you can't have good success with spikes, and I know people swear by them. Just make sure you try the other stuff first. And one thing that was really particularly you want to listen to in that video, sometimes people might prefer the spikes because the amplitude is higher than with decoupling, but it's higher because of the vibrations or what you're hearing in the room, and it's not quality additional dBs you're hearing. But sometimes we're just trained, and sometimes it's a trick some of these people do in these AB demos. They just slightly increase the volume, even 0.5 or 1 dB. That can give you the impression of more dynamics, better sound. But if you really listen to with this type of increase in volume just because of the resonance, that it feels more alive and exciting? No, that's the wrong type, because it's colorations. It's stuff that you don't really want. And it may sound good on one song, but I guarantee on another song, you're going to find problems. It's better to just get that initial impulse from the sound. Listen to your speakers, not your room. That in the long run will pay off. So that's why decoupling versus spikes, another great example of that today. As well as, if you are a vinyl guy and haven't done any record cleaning, record restoration, Steve McCormick gave a bunch of records to Charles today. And then we were doing a demo before it closed down where he'll actually measure before and after, gaining some dBs. And 3 dB is like doubling power. I mean, like, that's kind of a pretty significant difference. If you've ever done an A/B test with 3 dB difference, it's noticeable. And to gain that from your records just from cleaning and restoration, why wouldn't you do that? It's not a expensive cost, and you definitely want to maintain your collection if you've invested. These records are not cheap anymore. So look at Charles Kiermoose and his stuff. As I featured in the past, and I have a lot more coming tomorrow, so I want to wrap up early tonight. Maybe some fun stuff too tomorrow. I think I should go back to West Hollywood, Sunset Marquee. Might convince a few more people to come with me. So stay tuned. See you tomorrow. Sign up, subscribe, and I'll see you back here soon.